I have. So before we start, I have one thing to say.
Uh-huh.
You know what time it is?
What time is it?
It's Modelo time, fool.
Why?
Because I've had a long week and I deserve it.
Yes, you do, my friend. Yes, you do.
Mm. I hope the crackling sound came really clean in that.
It actually did. It came out pretty good.
Hell yeah. Okay, so uh what's up?
Um, Not much.
You want to go straight into it or what?
Fun. Well, okay, real quick, fun news. We might have a Chema room very soon.
Hell yeah. Tell me about this.
We put in an offer on a house and it's been accepted. So
Heck yeah.
we still need to do the inspection and the appraisal and stuff, but we might be homeowners within the next 30 days.
Shit, that's fast. Wait, the
Yeah.
house already like built and everything?
Yeah.
Somebody lived there already or
Yes, sir. Built in 2008.
2008?
Yes, sir.
Oof.
And it has a chema room. It has a kukui room.
A what?
I call it a kukui room.
A cool room.
Yes, sir.
Well,
That's a chema room.
yeah. I'll bring my concoctions and my shenanigans into this room.
Fuck yeah.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Finally, a room where I can grow old.
As long as we'll have you.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's all the good news I've got for you today.
Very exciting. Very exciting. It's amazing how fast time flies. It seems like just yesterday you were going to class wearing a suit jacket and trying to challenge the literature professor. Um,
I'm not saying I was right. I'm saying she was wrong.
you want to jump right into this?
Fuck it, let's jump right into it. Chema, hit the goddamn intro.
Thank you for welcoming us into your headphones. My name is Chema.
I'm Eddie.
Reviewing I Saw the TV Glow, and this is the rollback. Look a little closer. Teenager Owen is just trying to make it through life in the suburbs when his classmates introduce him to a mysterious late-night TV show, a vision of a supernatural world beneath their own. In the pale glow of the television, Owen's view of reality begins to crack. So we have the new movie directed by director Jane Schombrun. It is their second directed film after the movie We're All Going to the World's Fair, which grabbed a lot of attention due to its use of color, light, and very specific acting. Definitely a proponent in the analog horror genre, which is very little by little grabbing a lot of attention. I remember hearing about We're All Going to the World's Fair. I grabbed a lot of attention, and Jane said that this movie I Saw the TV Glow is kind of like not a sequel, but it's kind of about the same thing. And there will be a third movie that will also follow the same topic. So
Mhm.
the movie stars Justice Smith, Bridget Lundy Payne, Ian Foreman, Helena Howard, Lindsay Jordan, Daniel Detweiler, and Fred Durst. And it is a very interesting movie. Definitely one of the most original movies. Yes, that Fred Durst. It is definitely one of the most original films of the year so far. In a movie that has been filled, he played the dad. In a movie that has been filled, in a year that has been filled with uh, very varied levels of sequels, prequels, remakes, spin-offs, and whatever. This movie really stands its own ground. And I wanted to talk about it because it's an A24. We all know how I feel about A24, but also because I found the topic very interesting and I've heard a lot of really good things about it. And I finally got to see it. In fact, I saw it twice.
Mhm.
And I feel like I had a better understanding of it the second time now that I knew kind of what was going to happen. So I'm very excited to talk about it. Definitely, I think one of the most original, interesting movies of the year. What did you think about I Saw the TV Glow? Did you hear about it before? Did you see trailers? Like, what do you think?
I had heard about it in passing on like my social media feed. I had never really like stopped to watch it. Um, God, it's let me start by saying this, and I mean this in the best way possible. It is not a movie for everyone. You need to, like, I said, I had never really like stopped to watch it. Um, ah, God, it's let me start by saying this, and I mean this in the best way possible. It is not a movie for everyone. You need to, like, I said, I had never really like stopped to watch it. You need to, like, I said, I had never really like stopped to watch it. You need to, like, I said, I had never really like stopped to watch it. You need to, like, I said, I had never really like stopped to watch it. You need to, like, I said, I had never really like stopped to watch it. You need to, like, I said, I had never really like stopped to watch it. You need to, like, I said, I had never really like stopped to watch it. You need to, like, I said, I had never really like stopped to watch it. You need to, like, I said, I had never really like stopped to watch it. You need to, like, I said, I had never really like stopped to watch it. You need to, like, I said, I had never really like stopped to watch it. You need to, like, I said, I had never really like stopped to watch it. You need to, if you're looking for like a generic film of the week for action or drama, this is not that. This is definitely not that. This is definitely an art piece film, and I mean that in the best way that I can. But this is definitely not the movie that you can just put on the back and just like forget about it while you're doing something else. This movie demands your attention and requires your attention. I would definitely agree though. It's definitely for the analog horror fans, the fans that like. If you liked Night Owl, you will probably really like this movie.
What's
Um,
Night Owl?
oh, sorry, Late Night with the Devil. My bad.
Oh, okay, got it, got it.
If you like Late Night with the Devil, you will probably like this movie because of the non-linear storytelling. I'll say that. Like it's very like you need to take a lot from the pieces that you're given and like assemble it together yourself. You know what I mean? It's one of those. In a good way, completely in a good way. I like I'm gonna call it the first layer. I like the nostalgia part of it. How we all look back at the shows when we were kids and they were fucking great. They were awesome. And then you go back and rewatch them and they're just not quite the way you remember. They're not as horrifying or terrifying. But I remember enough of my youth to be able to be like, I remember being a kid and looking too much into things. You know what I mean? You
Mhm.
remember walking down the street with your cousins or your friends and being like, that house is haunted. And like the littlest thing was like, oh my God, it is haunted, you know?
Yeah.
Like looking for those assumptions, looking for that evidence. So first impressions are good. What about you?
I I me like you, we're both kids of the 90s. You know, we both experienced that era and the following years afterwards. And there is a big sense of nostalgia. I think this movie, much like a movie like Lady Bird and other kinds of movies that really capture those early 2000s, late 90s feels, where I could see in the clothes that they were wearing. I could see in the way that they spent time in sleepovers. You know, that moment when they would leave you at a friend's house and you would wait for your parents to leave, and then you would like speed away to do hood rat shit. Like I remember all that. You know, like it gave me a big sense of nostalgia. And as a kid that was also kind of shy, kind of scared of a lot of things, resonated a lot with me. The fact that these kids grew up watching a show that's basically Buffy the Vampire Slayer, but with, you know, obviously its own thing. You know, it's an XP,
Yeah.
to the point where they even use the same font and everything. Found it really interesting. You called out the watching a show when after you grow up. I am not sure if this is a direct callback to this, but look, when I was a kid, there was a show called Ghost Rider. I don't know if you remember this show. Um, no,
Remember
it was
Nightmare.
it was a show about some kids, and there was a ghost kind of. It was like a little sprite that just flew around the screen, and they would help them like solve mysteries and stuff.
Hmm.
And there's an episode where one of them has a younger sister, and she gets this like purple doll with a leather jacket. And one of them writes a story where like the doll is kind of possessed and following them around. And the doll is kind of made of this purple goo. And when I was a kid, I swore that was the scariest fucking thing I've ever seen in my life. And then I grew up and I was like, I need to rewatch that to see if that was as scary as I remember. And of course it isn't. Like it was very dumb and it was very like that. But when I was a kid, to me that was the scariest thing ever.
Yeah.
So I knew exactly how Owen felt in that scene. But like like a very good dip, there are layers to this shit.
Yeah.
You hit the nail on the head by saying this is not a movie for everyone. I would not recommend this movie to like my like casual friends or like even my family, because one, they do not have the patience for this, and
Yeah.
two, it is a very specific narrative. Like I watched this movie by myself. It took me a couple of days to watch it because I would watch it like late at night, and then I rewatched it again with a couple of friends a couple nights ago, and like the movie ended, and Jimmy, your friend Jimmy, my friend Jimmy, our friend Jimmy,
Mhm.
like the movie ended, and Jimmy was like, so we all agree that this is like a trans narrative, right? And I was like, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's like immediately. Like
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, we're on the same page. Okay, yeah. Now that being said, I think there is a very strong message to this movie, and while I do think it was directed and written by a member of the trans community, I do think there is a message here that is very specific to that area, but also something that everyone can get to. And this is a movie that very aggressively tells you that if you're not busy being yourself, you are busy killing yourself.
Mhm.
And that is like the big message. I mean, I guess you can jump to the end here, but that is the big thing that the movie wants to tell us. It is a wake-up call to be yourself, and that every second that you're not being yourself, your real self,
Mhm.
you're wasting it. And it's a pain, and it is a darkness that can consume you. And there are layers to this, of course, and we can go step by step. But I think it's important to remember to know from the get-go that is the lesson, and that's why we have that great scene where like Owen is kind of saying goodbye to everything. He's walking away from these chalk drawings in the street that said there is still time, which
Yeah.
is yeah, there is still time to like find yourself and like accept yourself. But it's better if you realize early or like as soon as possible of not or not you don't want to end up in just like Owen in a dead end job, uh breaking down, you
Yeah.
know, although only getting to that point. But then again, there is still time. So I love the message of it. I'll be honest. I'm still iffy on analog horror. To me, it's still this is miles better to me. This is miles better to me than Skinamarink,
Mhm.
but still, there's a lot of slow moments. There's a lot of slow paced moments in this movie. The first time that I was watching this movie, I almost fell asleep during the monologue that Maddie was saying.
Which
Just because
one?
I was the one where is talking and like all the constellations are in the
Okay,
background.
gotcha.
Yeah, I almost fell asleep during that scene, not because it was bad, but because the mood was really getting to me,
Mhm.
and it was late and also that. But like I went back and I rewatched it and everything. So it is a movie that you should probably watch earlier in the day, and so also you have time to like sit down with someone and like discuss it and everything. So that's a big thing for me.
Mhm. Um, I think I'll say this. I want to go back to something you said earlier. You mentioned the whole, it's aggressively telling you you need to live and be who you are now, and it's aggressive about it. There was a recent news story, I don't know if you know about it, of an American veteran who passed away. And in his obituary, he said, I'm gay. But I kept that secret my whole life. Like, unfortunately, this man didn't feel like he could come out, and he didn't come out until he died. He in his obituary, um, and that's never really sat well with me. The whole idea of like missed opportunities of your youth, stories never really sat well until I read that article, and then I'm watching the story, and I'm like, this story I think would reminisce a lot more with like transgender people or gay men, particularly from the 50s or 60s, where you had to be closeted. Either you keep that shit hidden or you risk losing your job, losing your family, alienating people that you think you care about. Um, it was an unfortunate time back then. And this movie, I feel like, speaks volumes to the old men who are around now that are seeing the transition, the changes, and maybe they feel like I was born too soon. Um, I feel like there is certainly at least that audience. Like that's one of the audiences for this. Definitely trying to speak to the youth of today of at least trying to be allies. It's okay to be who you are, that you are valid, that you are loved. Trying to be welcoming and open arms, and it's a sad story of Owen constantly rejecting who he is twice. I think Maddie, the character, kind of knows who she is. It's never said if she's transgender, but at the very least, she is gay.
Mhm.
Um, Although the second time we see her, she does have, I would say, more masculine hair, more masculine clothes. I'm not sure if she's trans or gay.
Mhm.
I'm not sure which, but it's very clear Owen is trans. He at one point we see him dressed, in a dress, and it's
Yeah.
very clear Owen isn't maybe he's not in the right body. And they make it very apparent in some parts that maybe other people may have missed, where they have the purple, blue, and white flag, the rainbow thing that he goes under when he's a kid. And he's like,
Yeah.
where am I? And then there's another part where we follow him in a long tracking shot in the school, where when he's in front of people and no colors, he's kind of dragging his feet, he's limping a bit. But the second we see the pink and purple, there's some pep in his step.
Yeah.
So
That sequence, which I think is the sequence that everyone is going to remember because it was beautifully soundtracked by Caroline Polachek, Starborn, and Unkissed, which, by the way, soundtrack for this movie fucking rips. It is so fun, so bouncy. And that whole scene where like he's walking around waiting to find that tape, and like you see all the notes that are being projected into the screen. You
yeah.
remember sending those notes, like passing them with someone from your class. We didn't have texting, so we had to just like pass those around. And color coding is very important in this movie. I mean, do you know what the pink opaque means?
No idea.
So the pink opaque is how medically is referred to the color of pink that's inside of your skin.
Mhm.
So like literally the inside of your skin, it's pink. Like regardless of your skin color, it's pink on the inside, and
Yeah.
that is referred to as a pink opaque. And I think what that means and what it's being used as here is that there is a color inside of us that nobody can see,
Mhm.
and only we can see it. So I think you hit the nail on the head. The character of Owen, this is definitely a trans narrative. Like it's a person that is stuck in a different person's body. And they use this show, the Pink Opaque, where like they have these two main characters who are supposed to represent our two main characters in the real world, Maddie and Owen, but they're represented by the characters of Isabel and Tara. Um, and I think since Maddie is supposed to represent
Yeah.
Tara, she ends up looking like her, like with the short hair.
Guiding
Yeah,
Isabella, or in this case, Maddie guiding Owen.
yeah, and in this one, Owen being Tara, who is being stuck in like a man's body. We see like the one moment where like he wears like the pink purple dress that Tara also wears in the show.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of callbacks to the 90s. It's not just a show that looks like Buffy, but also that the whole sequence where Owen is kind of staring at the fire and telling the story. That I think is a reference to Are You Afraid of the Dark? Because that's how they would tell stories, that we would sit down in front of the fire.
Mhm.
And so I think that's what that is referring to. But also The Adventures of Pete and Pete. There's a ton of references to that because of the very weird show, and the two actors actually cameo in the movie as like his two neighbors that just kind of like stare at him from the street.
Mhm.
Speaking of the 90s, Fred Durst plays Owen's dad. And why is Fred Durst here? I had this big question like before I saw the movie. I was like, why is Fred Durst here? Like what is he doing? Why is he in an A24 movie? And then it hit me like a ton of bricks. He was in the 90s the bad boy. He was the bad boy that represented like all bad boys, that very tough, very physical, evil masculinity. He kind of represented that in the 90s. He's mellowed out, with age, which it happens.
Yeah.
But the fact that they got like the guy that was like angry white boy masculinity, toxic, fucking like wreck shit, they got him to play like the quote unquote evil dad in this one. It's kind of perfect casting because he
Yeah.
also doesn't do much. He has like one or two lines, but just like that one time where like he tells like Owen, like, isn't that a girl's show? Like he says it with such venom and
Yeah.
with such like you've heard a dad or an uncle or a friend of your dad like say a line like that. And so it kind of hits like directly. Yeah.
Well, also, there's a point where, and one of the maybe harder scenes to watch, when Owen is kind of like going through the TV slash not
Oh,
through, and he pulls him back, and
amazing
I'm
scene.
thinking, oh, he cares, like he's trying to save him.
Yeah.
But then you see him like holding him almost, I don't know if he's dunking him in the hot water or just holding him over it so the steam can help him breathe.
Yeah,
But Owen is reacting like you're not my real dad or whatever, whatever.
yeah.
Um, and I, at that moment, I think his surrounding actions, maybe I'm giving the dad too much the benefit of a doubt. I thought he cared. Like he was like, I'm gonna help you. But I guess maybe it was could have also been like some degree of like conversion therapy of like wipe that sissy makeup off your face, boy. Like, like that unfortunate stuff. I'm
Yeah.
not quite sure which way it was. You tell me, because I couldn't distinguish if he's trying to help him because he just put himself through a TV, or is he trying to be like fucking man up? I can't
Well,
tell.
that's what's so genius about this movie because it's really trying to play with your head and tell you like, is this real? Is this happening, or is Owen just imagining it?
Yeah.
There's a fantastic scene where Owen comes back from work and he kind of walks in and he sees his dad and he just goes like, I was late because like a power line was down. And we see a shot of Durst just like sitting in his couch staring at him.
Mhm.
And he's only illuminated by like the light of the TV. And I got chills when I saw him. I
Yeah.
thought it was like makeup or something that make him look like a goblin. And then the second time that I saw it, I had to like look closely and be like, no, that's just Durst. Like that's just what he looks like. And he looks fucking menacing. He looks terrifying. And like in a way of like I'm not even talking to him and I feel like I'm gonna get my ass whooped, like
Yeah.
it's ever present in that sense. And here's the thing. My interpretation of this movie, and it can be and people can interpret this in different ways. My understanding of the movie is that Owen and Maddie are Isabel and Tara, but in the ending of like the show, they had their bodies buried and their consciousness were sent into maybe a different dimension, maybe a different world, and Owen and Maddie are trying to wake up as Isabel and as Tara, and their only connection is that TV show.
Yeah.
So that's why they feel comfortable watching the show. That's why they feel happy watching the show. That's why they feel like they're being represented because that's them and they're trapped. Because there's a moment where like when Owen stops when the light poles are down and he finds this TV guide. He mentions specifically how the show ended, the Pink Opaque ended in season 5. And then when he finds the TV guide, it says that the Pink Opaque season 6, episode 1.
Mhm.
And I feel like it's like the universe kind of guiding them like, come on, like you gotta like wake up. You gotta like wake up and continue with the story. And I think Maddie realized that
Mhm.
and she escaped thinking like, I gotta make it, like I gotta like get back, but she can't do it alone. And Owen doesn't. Owen is too scared. Owen cannot break the mold for fear of disappointing his mom, his dad, co-workers, people he went to school with. He being scared eventually lets the villain of the show, Mr. Melancholy, kind of win.
Mhm.
And so you have two sides of the same coin. You have a person that realized their destiny and went to it, and you have another person that realized their destiny but didn't do it because they were too scared. And both of these people exist within the trans community. There's people that even when they're young, they realize this is who I am, and I gotta like push for it. I gotta get to it, and I gotta become who I am. And there's people who are like too scared because this world is too scary, and they feel like they can't do it and they kind of cannot make it without each other.
Yeah.
And it's important that both of these stories are represented because Jane Schumburn, the director, very specifically said this movie is about that cracking moment where you realized who you are and that you need to act like the person that you are or not you're going to get left in the curb and it could really really affect you and break you, which we see Owen break in the end because he's stuck in a dead-end job. He loses both of his parents. Ends up with a house. He ends up with a big TV. He says he ends up with a family, although we don't end up seeing them.
Yeah.
And in paper, it's like the perfect world. Oh, he has a job. Oh, he has a family. Oh, he has the house. But like, is he happy? Of course not.
Yeah.
And we have that moment where like he breaks down. It's a beautifully scary scene, like almost out of like something that Ari Aster would do where
Mhm.
he like breaks down, starts yelling, calls out for his mom, says like I don't belong here. Where am I? Help me! Somebody help me! And then he goes to the restroom and he has this amazing scene where he like cuts open his body, opens it, and he sees like that glowing of the TV. And that is the real him trying to come out.
Mhm.
Um, and it is incredible. Like this is it really goes down better the second time you watch it. Also, it feels like it goes by faster. But oh god, every metaphor and everything that's coming in hits you like a ton of bricks. Like I am not a trans person. I have friends in the trans community, so I don't know what the experience is like. But I remember like seeing my friends after they came out, after they started their transition, and thinking like, man, I'm older than you, and I have no idea who the fuck I am. I cannot even imagine how you must feel knowing exactly who the fuck you are.
Mhm.
I'm jealous, you know? Um, like it is so specific and it's such a unique thing. And I'm glad that a movie like this exists to tell these people, number one, you still have time, and number two, you're not alone.
Mhm. Um, shit. Okay. I want to get to layer number three, where I
Yeah,
want to watch what I say right now because I want to be very clear what I'm trying to say.
yeah.
Um, and we will get to that in about 30 seconds. So I'm gonna pick my words very carefully, and I want what I'm about to say to be taken as a whole. Okay. And part of it, this is understand. I know that this film is more or less directed at the trans community, trying to send the message that, hey, it's okay, you're valid, you're loved. There's still time for you to find who you are or to be who you are. Completely agree with that.
Yeah.
Part of what I think this film is trying to say, and I can be completely wrong, is that I think part of it is also I wonder if Owen is suffering from depression or schizophrenia. And I want to be clear, I'm not saying he's going through that and that's why he's trans. No, don't misconstrue my words. What I'm wondering is this. I'm wondering if he happens to be dealing with some mental health issues because he is not good. He's not being who he should be. I don't know if that makes sense. Like it happens to be the two are mutually exclusive. If he was able to embrace who he wanted to be as far as being a trans person, he wouldn't be dealing with depression or mental health issues, maybe. But because he's keeping himself locked in, he's trying to maintain, no, I am who I am. I am this person. Maybe that's causing some mental health stuff that's going on. And I wonder if this is also partially like saying, like, hey, mental health is important when it comes to the trans community as a whole. I hope that comes out the way I meant it in a good way. Did it?
Mhm.
Do I need to edit what I just said?
I am not a spokesperson for, mental health or, the trans community or, the autism community or whatever. I'm not, I have a psychology degree, but I'm also just me.
Yeah.
So I am also, aware that I am sitting in a house as a guest at this moment by talking about this movie. And it is important that we also be respectful of that. Now, that being said, I think there's a lot of actions that could be perceived by the characters, to be associated with some kind of condition. Now, I'm not going to sit here and start diagnosing these characters because that's not what we're here to do. We're here to talk about a movie.
Yeah.
However, the movie, did make us feel a very specific kind of way, and it is a wake-up call. It is a wake-up call to, like I said at the beginning, it's not just exclusive to a trans community. It is about realizing that if you're not being yourself, you are suffering. And, I don't know if you've met a ton of trans people, but most of them, from the ones that I've met after they start their process, they're fucking happy.
Yeah.
Because they feel comfortable. They're comfortable in their own skin. Imagine not being comfortable in your own skin for years,
Yeah.
for a lot of your life. So there is a lot of that. Now that being said, I have seen some people saying like, "Oh, maybe Owen has like some degree of autism." Again, I don't feel like it's our position to talk about, you know, what they are and how they're identifying. I don't think even the director wants us to do that. I think they just want us to enjoy the movie and learn a lesson. I did find it very interesting. The first time that I was watching the movie, this was going to be originally a criticism, but then it kind of hit me why it was working. I didn't love Justice Smith's voice that he was doing for the movie. To me, it felt very awkward and very weird, but it kind of makes sense with the whole analog horror, like it's very slow and everything. But also, as I was watching it the second time, it kind of hit me. Well, yeah, it kind of makes sense that his voice is kind of coming out a little strange. Like it's not supposed to fit his body and what he looks like.
No.
So yeah, so that's when it also, came together pretty well. That was originally one of my criticisms, but then I was like, no, it makes complete sense because like I've heard Justice Smith in a ton of other movies. Like I know what he sounds like. So this definitely felt like an acting decision. And it kind of fits his character. It's kind of interesting because like I've seen this guy in movies for over 10 years. The first movie that I saw him in was this movie called Paper Towns, where he played a high school senior. It's been 10 fucking years and he's still playing a high schooler. It's kind of fucking amazing, you know. So it's pretty fun because like we were watching the movie the second time and we're like, you can see where he shaved. Like this is a mid-20s dude. Like what's up? It's like, but okay, but it kind of makes sense why they casted a slightly older person. And also we haven't even talked about him. We haven't talked about the performances in this movie besides Fred Durst, but like he's great in this movie. Justice Smith. I think he's good in everything. Like even in Jurassic World, I think he was good. But like I've liked him in Dungeons and Dragons. I love him in Detective Pikachu. I like Paper Towns. Like I like Every Day. I like all of these movies. So I don't really have a complaint about him. Brigitte Lundy Payne, who I don't think I've ever seen her in anything before. No, wait, that's a lie. That's a lie. They were in the show Atypical. Yes,
Weren't they also in Bill and Ted Face the Music?
Yeah, they played one of the daughters. Yeah. So yeah, I do remember them from that. But yeah, I saw they were great, and I saw the TV Globe. Anyway, no, I don't think you were off in what you were saying. I do think that there is a connection there. Like, yeah, if you spend a lot of your life hiding who you are, it's gonna hurt. It's gonna cause you some pain. It's gonna cause you some hope. It's a form of self-hurt. So of course, I do think it's connected to a little bit of mental health, and of course, mental health is important. I think the movie also takes a long while to do that, and it kind of makes you forget that the '90s were a very close-minded age, but also the most open that they could have been at the time.
Yeah.
So without, being extremely radical. So I love this movie. I had a lot of fun with it. I think it's definitely memorable. And I don't know if it's going to end up in my top 10, but I did had a blast watching it. And I'm really glad that it's a thing that exists and that hopefully people will get the message from it. And I cannot wait to see what Jane Schumbrun does next also.
Mm-hmm. Well, you mentioned that they're working on a trilogy or like a third film in this. It's not officially a trilogy, but all three movies will be closely, I guess, what could we call it? Linked spiritually to some degree.
Yeah. So the previous one and this one are about like how media kind of affect us and dictate like how we are and how we see ourselves in it. And the previous one was about being hidden. This one is about the cracking and like the breaking down. And I think the third one will be about breaking free, like about like being free already. So that's kind of the order that is going to go. So I recommend everyone go see this one and also go check out We're All Going to the World's Fair, because this is a writer-director that definitely deserves our attention. And I think it's being a great addition to like just our whole collective consciousness of directors working right now.
Yeah. Well, also, I mean, I think it's also worth noting this film was partially clearly Jane's story, right? It's their story.
Yeah.
But it was produced by Emma Stone and Dave McCary through their company. I believe it's called Under the Fruit Tree.
Oh, yeah.
Or sorry, the Fruit Tree banner. So, no, I mean, good props to them on that aspect of it. Emma Stone's getting involved a lot more in producing as well. She's doing a lot more, shall we say, counter mainstream films between this and Poor Things, Kind of Kindness. I would say she's definitely going into more of an artsy stage of her career, which, no, in a good way. Strictly in a good way. Good for her.
Did you see The Curse?
The Curse? No, I can't say. Oh, the TV show.
Yeah, TV show with her, Nathan Fielder, and Benny Safdie.
Can't say I have.
Oof.
Why?
It's a trip. It's a trip.
What happens?
Well, it's a show. It's about this married couple,
Uh,
and they are newly married, and they're trying to conceive a kid, but at the same time, they're hosting like an HGTV show, you know.
oh, no.
But
Okay.
it's trippy, it's very very trippy,
Um,
super fun.
I've seen Nathan in this other show he was in on HBO called it was like practicing.
Oh, the rehearsal.
There were yes, yes, yes.
The rehearsal is one of the most insane things I've ever seen in my life. I cannot believe that's a thing that exists. Like I loved it because it was so weird and dark and like so very unique. And I made my dad watch it. I was like, Dad, just check this out. Like, I'm not even gonna tell you what it's like. Just watch it. And he came up to me like after watching the first episode, and he was like, "Holy shit!"
I think there's one where like they simulate having a kid, but to make the
Yeah,
simulation more realistic, every 6 hours they swap the kid with a kid that's just technically marginally older.
yeah.
Which I'm like, that's not really an accurate representation because that kid's not going to be trained like the other ones. But okay.
That's the that show came from the budget of Mr. David Zaslav. So happy to bankrupt him any day
Ugh,
of the week.
Jesus. Um, but yeah, so okay, so I saw the TV Glow. I think we both can agree we're not necessarily the exact audiences for this film, but we can appreciate what it's trying to do or what it was able to accomplish. Would you agree?
I am of the audience that I love watching a good fucking movie, and I think that's enough to be honest. Yeah, deep, personal, original, weird, trippy, nostalgic, emotional. There's a ton of ways to describe this movie, and I may not be in the trans community, but I adore this movie. I thought it was super well done, very original, and I think that's enough. Like I appreciated this movie. It's available on VOD, so everyone go check it out, support it because it is a low budget movie. A24 gave it a big push. So everyone check it out. If you can see it in theaters, great, but it's also available on VOD. So yeah, go check it out. I'm gonna give this 4 out of 5 stars. I thought it was original, it was visceral, and I cannot. I am willing to watch it several more times. I feel like this is going to be one of the year that I'm going to go back to rewatch several times because I feel like there's some things that I miss,
Mhm.
and I cannot wait to discover it more. It feels like a puzzle that just gets better every time that I uncover it more. But yeah, 4 out of 5 stars
Mhm.
might end up in my top 10.
Mhm. Um, 6.5 out of 10 for me. That's not a bad score. That's like Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. It's a good score. It's just I I don't have any complaints. I don't know if that makes sense. I don't have anything negative to say. I guess maybe it doesn't resonate as well with me as it may with other individuals. But
Mhm.
I don't want to say like, oh, that makes it bad because I know relate. No, I can appreciate a good movie even if it's not necessarily for me, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally.
But no, definitely a good movie worth watching that other people should watch as well.
Mhm. Most definitely. And yeah, that's going to be our review of I Saw the TB Glow, directed by Jane Schonbrun. Next week, what are we doing next week?
Um, what do you want to do next week? You want to do Hell of a Boss?
Do season one of Hell of a Boss just to like have that complete there. Because so unless you want to do the bike riders or is wait.
A Quiet Place
Oh,
One?
Quiet Place day one. We could do
Um,
that or bike riders. What do you want to do?
let's shoot for A Quiet Place Day One.
Okay.
All right, fuck it. We're doing A Quiet Place Day One next week.
Also, Jimmy and I are doing a little review of Ultraman Rising, which just came out on Netflix. I promise him we're gonna do that one. So that could be one that we could put as an extra in there.
Is it a
Um,
movie or is it a?
it's a movie. It's an animated movie.
Oh, okay, okay. Does Ultraman fight Godzilla in any way, shape, or
Not
form?
in this one. It's animated. I think he has like a baby that he has to protect. I haven't seen it. We're gonna watch it like right now. Jimmy's on his way actually, and but he loves Ultraman, so I would mostly just do that for him. Yeah.
I mean, I hope you guys love it. Record your review, and I will gladly post it with the rest.
All right, sounds good. We'll just go ahead and do that. All right, man. Well, thank you so much for joining us. My name is Chema,
I've been Eddie.
and this was the rollback.
Signing off with a reminder that you are loved and you are valid.
And there is still time. Keep rolling, rolling, rolling. What? Keep rolling, rolling, rolling.
Chema,
Come on,
Chema,
keep
no, no, no,
rolling,
no, no, no,
rolling,
no, no.
roll. Where's my red hat?
No, no. If we're gonna end this, we're gonna end this my way. Okay?
Okay.
My way. My way or the highway, Chema. All right?
All right, fine. Fine.
Do you get it?
Rolling, rolling, rolling. What? Keep rolling, rolling, rolling. Come on. Rolling, rolling, rolling. Come on. Rolling, rolling. Is my